Okay, so I'm going to start this with a bit of an explanation, which is that our group had the hardest task by far. They all agree. Basically, whereas the other three groups have all been working on stuff you've talked about already, one of the things that kept coming up over the last few days was about oversight and scrutiny and transparency, and basically how do we hold all of this to account? So our group got a whole new set of information this morning to assimilate, along with all the information you guys have already had, to try and think about that in a bit more detail. So we had a lot more to do in the same amount of time, just saying. So if we need more work, that's fine. We would love your guidance on it. So basically, we talked about two things. We first of all talked about how the public should be involved in all of this. And we particularly talked about today and over the last 4 days, we've basically been setting rules. We've been setting what should happen with our data. We've been setting our expectations up. That's great, but that's not the end. We thought this is only the start because actually there's going to be all sorts of questions that are going to come up and keep coming up. And so what we wanted to talk about was what was the public's role in ongoing policy development. And we basically said that we expect there's several ways that the public are involved in ongoing policy development. We heard that there's already a regular board of experts that meet to make decisions about these things. And we thought what was really important for that was that 2 or 3 lay people, so people like ourselves, public, people who don't know very much about this stuff, sit on that board representing both patients and members of the public. We also thought that that board wouldn't be enough on its own because we worried that 2 or 3 people, that's not enough. There's a lot of people in this room and a lot of diverse opinions. Sometimes 2 or 3 people isn't enough, and sometimes one person might get on their hobby horse and might not reflect the views of wider society. So we thought that that board should also be able to check ideas with a citizens advisory group. We talked about that being recruited a bit jury style, so almost like jury service. You have to come along, you have to attend, your expenses would be paid. We talked about it maybe being recruited in a different way, but fundamentally we thought it was important that a diverse range of people were listened to, but that they should be aged at least 17. We didn't make it onto the slides, but that was important to us. We also said that they should occasionally we thought that even if you got a group together, they might have different views, and we thought these groups would be meeting every kind of 2-3 months or so they might get a bit more used to each other, but they might move further and further away from the public. We wanted them to be fairly regularly refreshed, but we also thought when they didn't agree with each other, that they should actually be able to use surveys with the wider public to test those ideas. We worried that if we did that the public wouldn't know all the context. So we also said there was role for a public information exercise to educate people so that the wider public, all of us Londoners, understand the issues a bit better. And yeah, we also said that it should be replaced after a number of years so that it doesn't go too stale. So number 2 was basically looking at the wider oversight, and particularly the points we've made about checking up on what's happening. So the first part was about the rules, setting the rules. This is about checking the rules are followed. So we basically said we expect there to be a trustworthy oversight in the system of joining up and using healthcare information, and that would include health and care officials playing the main role in making detailed decisions. So we really thought that actually they're the experts, they know what they're talking about. In most cases, in most circumstances, we want the health and care officials supplemented by professionals, so we wanted the doctors, etc., to be involved in making the main decisions. We thought that actually also, in order to make sure those decisions were balanced, that we needed additional roles for experts from health and care, from science, and potentially from cybersecurity experts. We also talked about the need for people from other backgrounds, such as patients, but also people from the arts and people from other sectors that aren't to do with health or science, but actually it's really useful to just get an alternative viewpoint. So we're saying as well as just the public, we also want kind of professionals, but from an alternative background to feed into that. And then we talked about, finally, there also being a specific role for elected representatives at the London level. So we talked about the idea of which level does scrutiny sit at. We said, does it need to be local councillors looking at this for us? Does it need to be kind of the London mayor and at the kind of London level? Or do we think we trust the national government and do we want them to make decisions on our behalf? So we thought quite carefully through whether we thought it should be local, regional, or national. And on balance, we thought that actually, because it's Londoners' data, we were really keen on hearing on a London level scrutiny, and therefore felt that set most comfortably with the mayor's office to basically oversee and scrutinise and hold to account. But we did say that because they're not experts, we don't want them involved in the day-to-day decisions. We just want them checking they're following the rules and that sort of thing. So not day-to-day, but just checking the rules.